I can begin.
Perfect.
So I was reading that because of COVID, when you sort of first arrived in Ireland, you had to quarantine for a little while alone in a cottage in Ireland, which that is my idea of absolute heaven. Was that a nice kind of period to work on the character and script, or was it quite a frustrating one did you just were you itching to get out there and begin?
No, I'm like you. I was really I was really enjoying it. Yeah, there was something so peaceful about it, and it just sort of felt like an experience that I probably will never get to do again, with not having to have any sort of distractions before a film for 2 weeks straight just seems sort of unheard of now. And again, in the countryside in Ireland, it was just stunning and beautiful and peaceful and quiet. And yeah, and there was something very rugged about it, coming from like Los Angeles and then just getting sort of like plopped in the middle of Ireland and like making my own fires to stay warm. And yeah, it was just so cozy and beautiful. I'm telling you, it was a really special experience. But yeah, and then also really getting the opportunity to break down the script. And because the film is so sort of atmospheric, it was a really great way to be able to figure out as we progress to the more scarier stuff towards the middle end of the film, where those moments really hit and how I was going to play that. So it was great.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they can just be a really small sort of nugget or a certain image that sticks in your head that makes you think, okay, this is going to work. And for me, that phone call, counting down the steps into the cellar that goes beyond the amount of steps that there is, just sent a chill down my spine. Do you remember when you were reading the script? Did you remember that moment specifically as
Yeah.
a
Yeah, that scene was really important because it really was the only thing that I felt really tied in from Brendan's short film, which was called The 10 Steps. So the film was really based off of his short film into the feature. So, and that was such a chilling moment in the short that I really wanted to make sure, and I'm sure Brendan as well wanted to make sure that that really hit. And I remember speaking with Abby Fitz, who plays my daughter in the film, Ellie, and knowing that we wanted to sort of be with each other on both sides of that phone call, because obviously we shot that on 2 separate days, one at her location, one at mine. And so I was there on the day that she shot that, and likewise for me. So she was a trooper, because I think we shot that at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning on my end. But yeah, it was really important to make sure that really set the tone for the fear of this daughter going missing, and where did she go?
So how was it sort of returning to the horror genre? I mean, when was it quite good to be back? I'm assuming, obviously, after being so successful in it, sort of a few years ago, that there would have been lots of offers your way. So what was it about this project that made you think, okay, this is the one I'm gonna use to return to that world?
Yeah, I liked it because I think it really reflected sort of where I was at in my own personal life as a mother, with two small children, and being able to sort of tap into that fear of, you know, losing a child and also going to the ends of the earth to save them, and really digging deep to see, sort of how far, mother would take it. And I mean, a lot of times when you watch horror films, there's always that dreaded, why are they going down into the cellar? Why are they going out into the woods? And why would they do that? But for me, it felt very organic for a mother to kind of go down in any sort of scary path to save her child. So it really made it very real for me. And it felt like it was, appropriate for my age at this point in my career. So I thought, this is a great story to tell. This is a story I could tell. And I also really, without spoiling anything, there was really some real great turns in the film, that I thought were very clever, and thought were very interesting, and would hope that audiences would kind of get a kick out of that as well.
Do you think that the horror genre can be quite a good place for kind of nuanced, complex kind of female roles? Because as a genre, it studies our psychologies and it uses our sort of vulnerabilities against us. So it means we focus on quite layered protagonists who have multiple kind of layers to them, and explores themes in this instance, like complex mother-daughter relationships. We actually don't see that enough of in cinema, really.
Yeah, I mean, it lets us kind of, yeah, that we, in our film especially, I mean, we do play on, bullying, and the mother-daughter sort of at odds relationship, especially when they hit their teenage years. There's definitely storytelling here that it goes beyond just the jump scares. Absolutely. So, and that's all another reason why I was drawn to this. I think there was the script had a very sort of sophisticated feel to it. I had done the genre, like you said, twice before, and one in a sort of more gory way, and then the other one in sort of this sort of blockbuster Hollywood way, and this really felt like a more sophisticated, elevated version of some of the stuff I'd already done before. So, yeah, I was really interested in the artistic side of it and what Brendan wanted to do as far as like atmosphere went. Just my character sort of like creeping through the house and really trying to sort of make those shots where nothing is being said very interesting and intriguing.
Mm. Obviously, you mentioned one of the main themes being the fact that it's a mother trying to find her daughter. Was that quite an exhausting place to go to every day, just emotionally? Because I mean, I've interviewed, I think it was years ago, sort of Hugh Jackman for his film Prisoners as well, which is about a father losing his child. And it is one of those things where every day that is every parent's worst fear, and you had to get yourself into that mindset every single day. Was that by the time there was the kind of wrap party? Was it almost like was it
Yeah.
quite a relief to sort of in
The
some ways
last
say goodbye? Yeah.
Yeah, the last day was really intense for me. I think I had a blast and a great time filming the whole way through, but the last day I think it finally hit me that it had been a lot, especially with these sort of themes of losing a daughter, absolutely. But that also helped propel me to get through the physical stuff of it, like the running and running through the catacombs and really when you're doing a horror film, you really got to go for it. And that I think that energy was drawn on the fact that this was a mother who had lost her daughter, and so the energy came from that for sure. So you try to use it the best way you can.
So when you start a film like this, do you have to ignore all the supernatural elements and just focus on the human aspects to allow you a kind of root into the character?
Yeah, and I think I mean, she's in advertising. She's got her head on her shoulders. She's not some sort of like head in the clouds type character. So when these mythical ideas and luckily a lot of it's rooted in mathematical equations, so that sort of makes sense to her. But I think when her husband starts thinking she's gone off the deep end. She really is trying to make sense of it all,
Mm.
and instead of being sort of flighty about it, I think she comes from a very like A to B way of thinking. So I liked that about her. There was a strength in that, and her real tenacity to not give up and to sort of figure out and solve the mystery.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she shows a lot of inner strength, and like you said, she's got this kind of unwavering love, and she never gives up. But so when you play a character like that, where you admire certain traits, and this goes across your whole career, do you ever sort of adopt them in real life? If you play characters that you think, oh, I really like that about this person, do you ever sort of find yourself sort of taking from them and trying to take them on as you?
No, I don't. You know what? I don't really take I don't take work home really that way, but I think when I'm in it and I'm creating a character, I think there's parts of me that obviously seep through in that way that I can't really control. I would imagine. So, but yeah, I try to get lost in the moment, and I try to embody these women that I play to the best of my ability, and then once it's done, it's done. Even so much so that like I remember watching a clip of Kevin Spacey, and he could recite back a lot of dialogue that he had done in the past, and thought, wow, that's impressive. I mean, I can't do that. I really do sort of I take it in when we're doing it and then let it go once the film is over. So it's luckily I don't have to have all this sort of like jumble dialogue in my head. So it's a good thing.
But even though you might sort of lose the character and sort of the projects as you go, what are you quite a nostalgic person? Do you ever find yourself looking back at some of your projects? Because I guess some of them then sort of eventually they get kind of 10-year anniversaries or 20-year anniversary. I just wondered if you ever initiate any kind of, I don't know,
Yeah.
type when you meet up with some of the old actors and stuff and have a drink. I don't know if that.
Oh yeah, it's always so great to see people that you've worked with, and every film, every show is sort of like its own little bubble that's happened and its own little experience, and they become family, and it's such an intense working environment. So you really do become so close to the people that you're working with, and then next thing you know, you're on to the next thing, which is super exciting. But yeah, every project that I've done feels like a special time in my life, and I have fond memories of every project I've been on, and yeah, so it's interesting. But this Ireland film and this Irish experience was really amazing. I mean, my only regret is that I wish I could have brought my family along to experience it, because it really was amazing.
But you were lucky. Did you try Tato's crisps? They're like chips, and
I
they're
did.
oh, they're good.
Did.
Those.
They're so good. I didn't get to have any pub experiences, which is, I think, is probably a crime, because nothing was open, but I definitely had the chips. Absolutely. I think I actually had them as soon as we landed, because Eoin, our my co-star, Eoin Macken, when we flew from Los Angeles to Ireland together, and when we landed in Dublin, we ended up in this sort of room before we got into our vehicles, and there was a big bowl of them, and he was like, "You have to try these." So I think it was the first thing I ate when I landed.
So no Guinness then, because you have to go back. Maybe try and get them to do a Cellar too, just so you can go back and have the pub experience.
I mean, just for that alone, we definitely need to do a sequel.
I was asking too, is, I mean, when you're being in horrors, you sort of mentioned you've done a couple across your career. Has it changed your ability to enjoy horrors as an audience member when you've started them and you've pulled back the curtain as to how they're made? When you're watching a horror movie now, just as an audience member, do you find you can see the sets, if that makes sense? You can see the direction. Does it change your relationship with horror as an audience member? Yeah,
a little bit. I think more so, not so much in the technical side of the filming of it and the sets, but I think more in the performances, because I know what it takes to have to really put yourself out there, to sort of let out the screams that are really not for anything other than really having to get yourself there to a place to sell what it is that you're frightened of. So I think I know sort of what it takes mentally and physically for the actor, the actress. And so in that, I'm always looking at the performances, and I'm always impressed in that way. And because I know it's not easy. Just like comedy technically is a dance and very difficult as well. And drama, getting to an emotional state that's believable and true, and that you feel. I always love watching other people's performances. So yeah, and now being in it and doing it 3 times, I definitely know what it takes. So I'm always impressed when you see great horror performances.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I always imagine fear being one of the hardest emotions to show on screen, because you have to it's when you make yourself your most vulnerable in some ways, doesn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. You're at the most vulnerable you could be, and to really believe terror in your eyes is an interesting thing to have to tackle. But if you let yourself go there and you let yourself go completely, you can really get there. So it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, well, I definitely believed you were scared in this.
Thank you.
How are you watching yourself on screen? Is it something you just get used to, after all these sort of years making sort of TV and film, or even, and because I was just thinking and following on from making a horror, I guess when you're, especially in some of the scenes where you are showing yourself to be your most vulnerable, but are these harder to watch than other films you make, or is it all quite challenging?
No, they're all hard to watch. I always, just because of my own self, I think, I always try to explain it in the way of, if you've ever listened to yourself on a recording and heard your own voice, and how weird and disconnected that feels, because you're like, that's what I sound like. So for a long time, it was, when I would watch myself, it was like, oh, cringy, because you just don't want to hear yourself talk, you don't want to see yourself. But as I've gotten older, I've sort of gotten over the insecurities of that. And really, when I watch myself now, there's a lot to learn, maybe things that people won't notice, I would notice and go, oh, maybe I'd do it differently this time, or, oh, if I tweak that or remember to do this. So now watching myself, it's always a great learning experience.
Yeah, I still can't listen to my voice back when I have to transcribe my interviews.
Yeah.
I always think I have this really deep, really, sort of mysterious voice that just comes across like a doofus every time.
That's what we think. That's our own critique of ourselves, so you have to sort of break that down, get past that, and then it's not easy.
So my final question, just sort of looking up to what's coming up, sort of Bandit is one that's kind of looks quite exciting, obviously with Mel Gibson and Josh Duhamel, which is an amazing story. How did you fit into that tale?
Well, the great thing about that story and to tell that story, which I thought was so amazing, and what a great opportunity for me being Canadian, was that it was really a Canadian story about, one of our most notorious bank robbers in history. So I haven't really gotten to tell too many Canadian stories in my career, other than maybe Goon, which is sort of a hockey film. But this was really diving into some Canadian history that I thought was so interesting, and to do a bank robbery film. I mean, how cool is that? So, yeah, Josh Duhamel and I had a really great time making the film in Georgia, and I'm really looking forward to people seeing it. And again, another character to tackle, a totally different vibe, and the journey that she goes on from the start of when they meet to really later on in life, going through this like timeline, this time journey is really amazing. So it was a really fun experience.
I've just finished. I'm a bit far behind everyone else, but I've only just finished Schitt's Creek, so I'm fully into like Canadian TV.
Yes. Oh, there's so many like Letter. Have you seen Letterkenny?
No, but no, funny enough,
Oh,
it's recommended to me as well. I've got Canadian family, and they're trying to get me onto that.
great. Yeah, Letterkenny. Yeah, there's so many great Canadian shows, so much great content, and I think sort of that. I think that English humor too has translated somehow because we're,
Mm.
we all think we're British, I guess.
Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you. And if you do get
I appreciate it.
Ireland for the Cellar 2, definitely have some more potatoes.
I hope so. Yes, thank you.
Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey,